Good morning, everybody. My name is Justin Wilson. I use he, him pronouns, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this service at the First Universalist Church of Rochester. If this is your first time here this morning, we especially welcome you and thank you for making it to our worshiping community. Everybody is invited to stay after for coffee hour in the Claire Barton Lounge behind us, which you can access through those doors, or online in the same Zoom link. There's also a visitor's form on the back of your order of service, or by clicking the link in the chat. We ask you to fill that out if you haven't already, so we can stay up to date with you about what's going on here at the church, and so we can offer you a welcome beyond what we can here this morning. Just a reminder, if you have a big joy or sorrow in your heart, now is a good time to write it in the notebook here on the chancel or in the chat on Zoom, anytime before the chalice is lit. A couple quick announcements. Just a reminder, the LGBTQ plus circle is meeting today in the Gratitude Room, that's room 22 upstairs. There is an immigration discussion next Saturday here at 9 a.m., and next Sunday is our last new member Sunday of the program year. So if you're interested in joining or learning more about that, please see either me or Reverend Eileen anytime. All right, before we take a moment to turn towards our neighbor, let's say hello to our online community by offering a wave towards the camera, which is near the Progress Pride flag. If you're online, pop a greeting into the chat. We're happy you're here with us this morning. And if you're here in person, let's take a moment to turn towards our neighbor and offer a welcome and a greeting.
Good morning. You may remain standing or rise as you are able, and we'll be singing from the Gray Hymnal, 123, Spirit of Life. You may be seated. Good morning. My name is Jay Joslin. I use he, him pronouns. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and to everyone who mothers as a verb. If you were to ask adults and children what their instructions might be for encountering wilderness, you would likely receive two very different responses. The adult version of encountering the wilderness: apply bug repellent, carry bug spray, pack a first aid kit, bring glow sticks in case the flashlight dies, bring extra batteries, bring plenty of water, bring protein, bring your phone, charge it, download 3 navigation apps to it, and a critter identification tool. Wear a hat, wear safety orange, wear water-resistant clothes, stay on trail, know your route, make noise to scare predators. etc. Instructions for encountering wilderness, child version. Go. Recent camping experiences forced me to reckon with childhood memories of the forest. I remember tearing out the back door for the timelessness of the woods, the streams, and the layers of grit which accumulate along with curiosity and imagination. Contained and contented by the wilderness, I built tree houses with friends, accessible by janky ladders. Definitely not OSHA certified. Other than signs prohibiting adults, we likely never articulated that these flimsy structures stood as bulwarks against the implications of growing up. Deadlines, the economy, and fear of the unknown have no place in a treehouse. We gathered in ragged clusters in shared wonderment, curiosity, and presence in nature without justification. Just as the forest is an extension of the child is an extension of an ecosystem kept healthy by acknowledging our sacred role in growing who we are becoming. Rachel Carson wrote, "If I had influence with the good fairy who presides over the christening of all children, I would ask her to gift each child in the world with a sense of wonder so indestructible that it would last throughout life and as an unfailing antidote against the boredom and disenchantment of later years, the sterile preoccupation with things that are artificial, and the alienation from the sources of our strength." Amen, Rachel Carson. Might we be the good fairy? It's easy to suppose that wonder vanishes in a world of adult responsibilities, yet the most responsible thing an adult may do is to uplift the necessity of wonder. If children are to look for the helpers, as Fred Rogers asked, we might reconsider in what way our helping sustains enchantment. Perhaps there is no greater help to a child than allowing them to persist in experiencing the awe that thrives in the wilder margins of the everyday, in the tree houses and pillow forts of the imaginal. Come, let us worship together. As Kitty Forbush comes forward to light our chalice at First Universalist, and you light a chalice in your own homes, please join me in our chalice lighting words spoken in unison. May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or in spirit for our affirmation of faith. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. You may be seated. I now invite you into the spiritual practice of generosity. I now re-invite you into the spiritual practice of generosity. The good work of this church is funded by the gifts you give. Part of that work is the work of the ministry of the Faith in Action Council. The Faith in Action Council, or FIAC, is the umbrella team for supporting social justice efforts. They think about the big picture of how our social justice work aligns with our mission and vision. Would any members of the FIAC present raise your hands here or online? Thank you for your service. We're so grateful for your contributions to the life of this church and the needs of the world. Let us give with grateful hearts this morning. Please place your offering in the offering basket or give online by scanning the QR code in the laminated sheet in your pew. This is also a great time to place visitors' forms in the offering basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
Thank you. So, friends, if you are interested in coming up to the story carpet to listen for our story today, or if you want to listen from where you are, so today's story is a true story. In fact, it is part of your story and part of our story. So I don't know if you knew this, that a little more than 50 years ago is when the Unitarian Universalist denomination started. Yeah. You can. If you guys want to work together to unfold the story blanket so that there's more room, that'd be awesome. Good teamwork. Oh, can you scooch off, Emmerich? So, there were Unitarians and there were Universalists. And even though we got together and made it official 50 years ago, guess what? We had been playing well together for like 100 years before that. We noticed that both the Unitarians and the Universalists, we had a lot in common. We became very friendly. We would do justice things together, and we would do these organizing things together. And there were lots of times that some of the adults tried to get us to talk about the marriage, the merger before that. But it just didn't happen. It felt too complicated. Everyone was like, but they're going to take all the money and they're going to have the name. And there were lots of issues that people had to work through when we share with each other, right? But both denominations felt very strongly about empowering their youth, making sure that they had the support to be active and to do what they felt was right. So, do you know what? 10 years before the adults got their act together, the youth were already on it. So in 1951, 10 years before the denominational merger, the youth groups merged. The youth groups together, the Unitarians and the Universalist youth groups said, no, we've got this. We play well together. There's no reason for two different organizations. Let's just make it easy. And they became LRY, Liberal Religious Youth, who some of the people here in this room grew up active in LRY, them and their kids. And it became a great role model for the rest of the adults to let something slide, to really realize that some things really aren't that important. And in some ways, being together is more important. So the thing I love about this real story is that when the goal is right, youth have it together. They're ready to go. They're ready to move on. They don't have the baggage the rest of us do. But we also have to make sure that we empower you, that we say yes to you. Like, you know what? You're right. To give you the chance to lead and to give us a chance to learn. So thank you. And feel free in coffee hour to share if you were a member of LRY, you or your kids, and then it went on to become YRUU, Youth, Young Religious Unitarian Universalists. Yeah. Okay, sounds great. So today is our food-in gathering. We've got a lot going on. So anyone who brought food today, we donate food and money to the Nestor Strait Community Cupboard once a month because it is an important way for us to put our faith into action. If you have food with you, if you'd raise your hand, and if any of our helpers would go forth and collect food from raised hands and bring them up to the baskets up front, we'd appreciate it. And also, if you have funds that you would like the youth to bring up to the box that we have up front, you can raise your hand for that too. It goes in the box right in front of the chancel. Good job. And then I'm going to put our story blanket back down over here so you guys have front row seats.
And you might want front row seats because this morning it is our privilege as a faith community to celebrate the rite of child dedication. So as everybody else settles down, I want to ask Emric and Jahara, would you go get your grown-ups?
Yes.
Any willing grown-ups that came with you today? And as these families come forward, we want to remind ourselves that this is not the act of blessing a child. You can stand right here and right here up front. But an acknowledgement that children are blessings unto themselves. This is a ritual of promise as a community to honor these children and every child as the blessings that we know them to be. A promise that even though children are not our possessions, we will offer them belonging. We welcome these children and their families into our community to be held in all their joys and all their sorrows. So I have a question for the grown-ups. Grown-ups, in bringing your child to be celebrated and welcomed into this congregation, you acknowledge their need for love and care and your determination to guide them with understanding and commitment. Your affection and devotion will support them for many, many years. Do you promise, to the best of your ability, by your example, your love, and your wisdom, to guide these children in the way of goodness, wonder, justice, and truth? If so, will you answer, we will? We will. And now I have a question for the congregation. If you're a member of the congregation, would you rise in body or in spirit? Will you, members and friends of this congregation, take upon yourselves the sacred privilege and responsibility of nurturing these children's character and spirit, pledging to them and to their families the love and the care of this community? Will you promise to guide them, to find joy in them, and to be beautifully transformed by their presence among you? If so, please respond, "We will." We will. You may be seated. And now this is an important one. Will the other children of the congregation rise in body or in spirit? So you could stand up or make your spirit feel large in some way. I'm going to ask you for some promises, and if at the end you think you can handle them, you will say, "We will," as loud as possible, okay? Will you promise to be a friend to these children? Will you play with them, care for them as you care for one another, greet them always with love and kindness, and as is the sacred duty of all fellow children, will you help hold the memories of their earliest days? If so, please respond, "We will."
We will.
Nice. Thank you. You may be seated. So Emmerich and Johara, we will bless you now with the elements of this good earth from which yours and all our good bodies have been born. I'm going to scooch behind you a little bit. First with dirt. We bless you with earth. Can I put some on your toe? Can I put some on your toe? May you always know your deep connection to your roots. May you be grounded in the firm foundations of love. Next, with water. Can I put some water on your head? Can I put water on your head? Thank you. We bless you with this water. May you dip your toes into the infinite sea of mystery. May you know peace as an ever-flowing stream. We bless you with air. May you welcome the winds of change. May you soar on the currents of your own passion. And finally, we bless you with fire. Carefully. May you seek the light of truth and stoke the fire of creativity within you. In awe of the unfolding of life, may we lift up our gratitude for all our ancestors before us and for any descendants who come after us. Reminded by the needs of these small ones, let us acknowledge that we all need one another. We all belong to one another. Over a lifetime, our own growth is nurtured by the others in our community. Children, may you grow with us, and may we grow with you. Amen. And now, as we offer Johara and Emmerich a little gift, how about a big, warm round of applause from everybody here? And Barbara. That's Emmerich's gift. And with much joy, let us rise and sing our doxology together as some folks go to Children's Church. With all that joy in our hearts, I invite you now into a reverent time of sharing the joys and sorrows of this gathered community. If you would like to, as always, you can place a hand over your heart to be able to listen from a more heart-centered place. We know so much is going on in our world today, and if you have joys or sorrows to share on behalf of our national or global community, you are always encouraged to do so. And as Jay places stones in our bowl, I will read aloud the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. We share with Paula a mother's joy on Mother's Day that her son has been selected as Employee of the Year at the University of Kansas. And we share sorrow with Jim, whose sister Nancy died last Sunday. She was diagnosed with acute leukemia only 4 weeks ago. We share gratitude with Nancy for the care and support of family, friends, and neighbors. We share joy with MJ that she's out of her cast, and gratitude for everyone on the caring committee for all their help. We share sorrow and worry with one friend who's holding 2 beloved loved ones in their heart as they grapple with cancer diagnoses in their families. We share joy with Hal and many of us at joyous children and grandchildren to parent and relish. We share concern for Lois Baum, who was in the hospital last week with a heart attack. She is recovering at home now and would appreciate cards and calls, including calls to set up visits. We celebrate together with Sarah, whose birthday it is. And we share joy with Zeppelin to be back at church after a long bout of whooping cough. And finally, so much on our hearts this morning, we share joy with the LGBTQIA Social Justice Circle that though the Genesee Valley gender variants lost access to their meeting place, we were able to arrange for their genderqueer support group to meet in the Clara Barton Lounge on Thursdays, which they did for the first time this week. Today we also share in a community ritual to honor the many joys and sorrows we bring into this space, whether we read them aloud or keep them in the silent sanctuaries of our heart. In a moment, those here in person are invited to come forward and drop stones into a bowl. If you need to be seated, please raise your hand and someone will come to you with a bowl to drop stones in. If you're joining us online, we invite you to drop a heart emoji into the meeting chat instead of a stone. Let us join in this collective ritual of honoring the joys and sorrows of us all now. Now the circle of our care is drawn larger. May it increase forevermore. Let us take a moment now for some prayer and centering, followed by a shared silence. And by shared silence, as always, we mean the absence of grown-ups talking to one another so that we can listen more closely for the sounds of life. The little feet of our children up over top our heads now, the hustle and bustle of the city outside the doors, the movements of the neighbor in the seat beside us, the inner workings of our own heart. Let's start with a deep breath. And I offer this prayer by Kenneth Patton. Spirit of life, let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips. Let us love the world through heart and mind and body. We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our siblings. We seek to know the wistfulness of the very young and the very old, the wistfulness of people in all times of life. We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, the anguish behind cruelty. All life flows into a great common life if we open our eyes to our companions. Spirit of life, let us worship not in bowing down, not with closed eyes and stopped ears. Let us worship with the opening of all the windows of our being, with the full outstretching of our spirits. Life comes with singing and laughter, with tears and confiding, with a rising wave too great to be held in the mind and heart and body to those who have fallen in love with life. Let us worship and let us learn to love. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Our hymn of contemplation this morning is number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. My colleague Evan works for the New England regional staff of the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association. And consequently, they travel to different congregations almost every Sunday, all around the New England region. And they often bring their kids with them when they're going to congregations as part of their work. And one Sunday, Evan told me this story, one Sunday they had their child with them at a congregation that was new to both of them. And they went to the bathroom to wash their hands together before coffee hour. And the sink was high, and there was no way for this child to reach it, and they had to be boosted up by Evan and held to wash their hands. And the child said, "Why is there not a stool in here?" And Evan, who was at work and busy and distracted, sort of said offhand, I guess they just weren't expecting children. And they washed their hands and dried them up and went about the rest of their Sunday. And Evan sort of forgot about it for a few months. Until a few months later, they were at a different congregation in the New England region, and they went, as they often do, to the bathroom to wash their hands before coffee hour together. And this child saw that there was a little stool tucked underneath the bathroom sink, and they jumped for joy and said, "Oh, look, they were expecting me." And what a joy it is to show up in a community that has already pre-thought of what you might need, isn't it? Here's a fun fact for us on Mother's Day. We know, because we live it, that patriarchal societies tend to center the needs of men. And so you would think, logically, right, that matriarchal societies, where they've managed to exist, would center the needs of whom? Women, probably, right? But anthropologists have studied this, and actually over and over, everywhere they've been studied, you know whose needs matriarchies prioritize? Yes, you do know. Every mom in here was like, children's, the elderly, disabled adults, the needs of people who need the most from their community. And maybe this isn't what you'd expect to hear on a Mother's Day at a service in a denomination that gave us the founder of this holiday, but when I was the primary daytime parent of a tiny person in this version of patriarchy, the defining sensation of that experience for me was isolation. Isolation, but never privacy, never solitude. I had a constant companion and nowhere to be in community. I spent the first couple years of my first child's life desperately looking for spaces to exist that weren't alone in my living room. And I really never succeeded in finding much in the way of safe, free, inviting space to exist with a child. We did use spaces like museums and the YMCA to find connection to the world, but they were far from free. In the warm months, we found space in parks and playgrounds, but most of the months here are not warm ones. Libraries were one of the only child and caregiver-friendly community spaces that we found, meaning they were free and safe and welcoming, though their hours and resources are limited by a society that is profoundly opposed to these third spaces, spaces that are not home and are not work, spaces where people are meant to gather without expectation that they spend money or earn it. Spaces like church, right? What a take for a society that so isolates caregivers to be so intent on people having children. Because as you may have noticed, there's a growing pro-natalism movement in the US, a push to increase the birth rate by encouragement or by force, a panic at a so-called fertility decline. There are so many problems with that. But first of all, it's built on false premises. The overwhelming majority of American birth rate decline is among teenagers, which I think is probably a fine trend. Also, declining birth rates don't necessarily mean a declining population. We have too easily forgotten that the higher birth rates of 100 years ago did not lead to a much larger adult population. In 1920, 20% of US children died before they were 5. And now that number is about 0.5%. If we let it, immigration would keep our national population steadily growing, but that's not what pronatalists mean when they say they want more babies, right? What they want is more white babies. Natalism has always been white supremacism. It was in Reconstruction, it was in the 1920s, it is now. It's always been eugenics, wanting certain babies born, not others, and not the least bit concerned with the lives and the well-being of children. A pro-child movement would create a world where children's needs are met. We are not living in a pro-child society. Here, just birthing a baby in a hospital in 2026 will cost around $5,000 in copays and insurance premiums in the best case scenario. God forbid you don't have insurance, because the total costs for giving birth in America average $20,000, if everything goes well. And it often doesn't, because we don't value birthing people's bodies. We live in a country where birth mortality rates are steadily rising for the first time in centuries. A pro-child society would, regardless of how many children are being born, hold itself responsible for their care. And the average cost of daycare in America is just under $1,000 a month per child. This is not to mention the social costs and career costs to a person who gives birth but has no guarantee of parental leave or paid sick time, when the daycare that costs more than community college sends baby home with a fever twice a month. This is not a pro-child society. And one thing that the left often messes up is that being opposed to the pro-natalist movement should not equate being opposed to children in general, which does sound obvious when you say it out loud. Pronatalism, which we could just call eugenics, it is just eugenics in a new sheep's clothing, is anti-child. And I don't think we want to be, right? It's not a good look. A pro-baby movement, a pro-child, pro-person movement would be morally incensed by the idea of forced birth. Humans have children because reproduction is what living things do. Not all of them, of course, because not every body has the capacity, not every life has the room, not every heart has the desire. Being vehemently pro-choice means we want everyone to have access to whatever off-ramps and on-ramps for reproductive health care are available. It means understanding that people will choose to have children and choose not to have children, and that those choices are both personal human rights. Being radically pro-choice grows out of the belief that every person has worth, dignity, and autonomy. Every person has ownership of their bodies and capacity to make choices for them, even children. Because, and this shouldn't be radical at all, children are people. Children are people is not a radical belief, but it is the premise under which the modern eugenics of pronatalism absolutely collapses. The extremist right-wing values of opposition to choice and opposition to the welfare of a child are not hypocritical, though we often talk about them like they are. Family values rhetoric sounds like hypocrisy, but those values of extreme constraint within unmoving social roles and the preferencing of power over people, of control over choice, are well aligned. To be anti-choice is to be anti-child. It's a terrible stance ethically, but there's no hypocrisy in it. We are not doing a gotcha on the anti-choice right when we point out that they'll happily label a fetus as a person but won't treat a child like a person. This is not an ideology that cares about the personhood of a fetus or the personhood of a child or the personhood of a parent or people who are disabled or people of color or people who immigrated here. This is an ideology about the consolidation of power and not about the worth of a person at all. It is no accident that we have built an anti-choice and anti-child society. And on the flip side, to be pro-choice is to be pro-child. Because a commitment to choice is a commitment to the inherent worth and dignity of every body, including children's bodies, regardless of that body's particular capabilities or needs. Our pro-choice ethics cannot afford to mimic the same anti-child ethics they exist to defend against. And it's not the most feel-good Mother's Day sermon, but it is important to talk about how we are living in an anti-child society and not just in right-wing spaces. We are, as a movement, not insisting our folks have as many children as possible, and so we are largely not creating spaces where children are expected. My entry to motherhood was isolating and hard, and I'm luckier than most. I have a graduate degree and a middle-class income and family and community support. I tell you that, though, because there are important realities to consider this Mother's Day. And I tell you because I think there are lots of folks here who can relate, who share the experience of deep isolation, the communal and financial alienation that is caring for children in an anti-child society. And I share it most of all because I think we, as a congregation, have enormous power here. We have a power to effect change for the better, and you all have proven that you value children and their caregivers over and over. You are building a space where children are not just allowed, but are expected, where they belong. If we are going to build a pluralist world, a world where everyone's worth and dignity is seen as inherent, then community spaces need to include children. If we build a movement that isn't welcoming to children, we will also have built a movement that is unwelcoming to the caregivers of children. If we build a movement where children are not expected, we will have also built a movement where disabled people of all ages are not expected. If we build a movement that isn't welcoming to children, that demands everyone be quiet and sit still and keep their noisy needs to themselves, we are only demonstrating that we're more invested in comfort than community, and that's white supremacy. That's eugenics in sheep's clothing, and we're trying to avoid that, are we not? Yeah, okay, I'm glad we're on the same page about that. A movement that holds the inherent worth and dignity of all people as a core value cannot afford to forget that children are people. And maybe it's not a feel-good Mother's Day sermon, but this was never meant to be a feel-good day for flowers and mimosas amidst the hard and isolating work of caregiving under these conditions. The origins of our modern Mother's Day go back to our Unitarian ancestor, Julia Ward Howe. She was an abolitionist who, in the wake of the Civil War, wrote a proclamation for peace, calling on her fellow mothers to demand peace from the men in charge who, as she put it, shall no longer come to us reeking of carnage for caresses and applause. Pop off, Julia, okay? She called for the kind of society that matriarchies have always been capable of, and I think she called on her fellow mothers on purpose for that reason. One that is not about power proving itself, but about centering the wellness of those most vulnerable. One where we find ourselves in solidarity with our children and therefore with everyone else whose needs are many and messy. Because this kind of community is messy. It's noisy. It's often uncomfortable for those of us whose needs are quiet and few. Expecting children means expecting a mess of needs, and often a literal mess. Those with a greater capacity to comprehend and tolerate mess should tolerate more mess, not use that capacity to evade mess. Because expecting children means making this space more accessible to all people. Back in Canandaigua, our worship associates started to say every Sunday, "Children and their noises are welcome in this service," at the beginning of every worship. We did it to make children and their caregivers feel more at home, but we soon found out that it also encouraged an elder member to keep bringing her husband, whose dementia made him prone to unexpected noises and movements, in the same way that childhood makes one prone to unexpected noises and movements. When we make a place welcoming to children, we make it more welcoming to everyone. We build accessibility into the structures of our community, never knowing fully who will utilize it. We put the stool under the sink because we want everyone to feel expected, even if they're not here yet, right? And after almost a year with you, I am confident that this is one of your greatest gifts. We need spaces where people, especially isolated and marginalized people, can exist together outside of the confines of consumption, where we can do human things like telling stories, singing songs, eating meals, caring for one another, spaces that aren't for spending money or earning it. And the good news of this church is that we are doing just that. We are feeding one another, literally. We are checking in on each other's joys and sorrows. We are holding each other's stories and singing songs of celebration and meaning. And we're doing that amidst some degree of mess and messiness, amidst the noise and needs of all the humans gathered. There is a gift in this kind of living that is not about our charitable capitulation to the need, but about our own growth and learning. It is good for those of us with many and messy needs, and it is good for the rest of us too, whose needs for now are simple and few. When we added the wiggle zone at the back of the sanctuary only a few weeks after I began here, I questioned myself a little bit. I did wonder if maybe I was coming in too hot, which those of you who are laughing know is a risk you run with me. I wondered how it would be received. And my expectations, even though they were wrong, were that this space, like much of our society, might not be altogether ready to be in solidarity with children. Happily, I was wrong. Some weeks I see children, my own more often than not, wiggling to their heart's delight, giggling, playing, sometimes throwing a ball back and forth during worship. And when it's my kids, you might see me up here like, no. And yet the only thing I have ever heard from y'all is, isn't it great to hear children's laughter in the church? Don't you love having those little voices lifted up during worship? Sometimes, yes. And you're right, of course. You're helping me grow. The reality is that worship is not meant to be order and silence all the time. We are here to unlearn our devotion to order and control. And children are excellent teachers for that. You all are building a community that expects children because you understand in a way that, hear me, is rare and beautiful. Community is meant to hold some degree of mess. So today, I need you to understand how miraculous it is that you have found a way to be so radically pro-child in an anti-child world. I need you to know how important it is that you have committed yourselves to making sure that every child in this space knows they were expected, they belong. I need you to know I'm so proud to be working alongside you to create a world that is ready for all of its children. May it always be so, and amen. Would you rise in your bodies or your spirits and sing together hymn number 338, I Seek the Spirit of a Child. invite you to remain standing if you are, as Jay extinguishes our chalice flame this morning. And let us read together the words printed on the screen before us. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts, with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. As we close our service this morning, I invite you to place a hand over your heart. If you are joining us online, I invite you to turn your settings to gallery view and look upon the faces of those gathered with you. For those of us here in the room, let's take a moment to look around at everyone here today. And as we go forth this morning, let us go to build a world where children are expected, where they belong, and where all their caregivers do too. Amen. Everyone is invited to join us for coffee hour immediately after the service in the Clara Barton Lounge or online right in the current Zoom meeting, and I hope to see you there.